I had been very much bothered by the level of poverty that you could not avoid seeing. The sad story of lives that simply weren't fulfilled. It seemed to me that we had a chance to do something about it.
For a long while, they continued their usual way, asked no help, and struggled along to keep them and theirs alive. But finally the time came when they decided that they'd carried the water long enough, that their children had been denied too long.
He asked himself the question, how can I do something about this? Figuring out how to use the resources of state power in order to improve the lives of the less well-off in society.
In late 1963, the governor and other North Carolina leaders concerned with the poverty around them formed an organization called the North Carolina Fund, supported by grants from the Ford Foundation of New York and the Z. Smith Reynolds and Mary Reynolds Babcock Foundations of Winston-Salem.
The first organization of its type in all of America, bringing our best minds and fresh ideas and new ideas, which involve vocational education in our high schools, preschool training where it's needed. These and many other ideas will give boys and girls and all people a better chance to get ready and to grow stronger and to be able to build better.
In the summer of 1964, one group of students did something different. They left the well-worn paths to Nags Head and Myrtle Beach to answer a call for volunteers in a campaign against poverty.
The idea came up of let's recruit college students from across North Carolina to have a kind of mini Peace Corps. We'll send them out to the various communities where poverty is a real issue. We'll put them to work volunteering with organizations who are applying for funds. The volunteer program was really just the right kind of thing to get the North Carolina Fund started.
These students from 40 college campuses all over North Carolina reported for duty knowing only that they faced a summer of hard work somewhere in the state, helping people to help themselves.
And it was courageous, if not brazen, because they sent those young people out in racially integrated teams, black and white, men and women living under one roof. It's quite remarkable how many of those former volunteers went on to devote their lives and their careers to issues of social welfare and economic and racial justice.
You got these integrated teams, coming up into the mountains, coming up into eastern North Carolina. So clearly Terry Sanford was going against the grain in North Carolina and in the South.
Sanford was an inclusive leader, and he really wanted to engage local communities to try to create more jobs and also create equal opportunity for peoples of color to get those jobs. That meant bringing many different kinds of people with many different kinds of voices to the table.
Who knows a community's problems best? The community's own people, said the North Carolina Fund. They said, in effect, get your leaders together. Look around you at your problem of poverty. Analyze it. Talk also with the people living in poverty.
At that time, there was a new form of social work called community organization. Prior to that, there was only group work and casework. And I always felt like group work and casework helped people manage oppression, and community organization would help people end oppression. When Operation Breakthrough, which was a community action program for Durham, started out, there was a position to head up Target Area A, which was Hayti, McDougall Terrace, and other parts of the black community. They asked me to come down and interview for this position. When I walked around the city, it was kind of amazing, though, to see in the middle of the city, streets not paved. The level of poverty was different than what I'd experienced. There were specific victories along the way. Getting houses fixed, getting streets paved, getting a sidewalk in the new housing project that was built to get people engaged in the process to change their own destiny is the thing that I think we had the most impact.
We deliberately said this is a 5-year project. This is not a new agency. This is a vast task force, if you will, to show how it could work. Trying not to put a pattern down that local communities would just follow. People, for the first time, organized in a way that brought out leadership capabilities.
As the fund went on and it began directly investing in organizing, mobilizing politically, poor people, white and black, he somehow convinced the board to go right along with that.
Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes when people may have questioned him on those kinds of issues, he would have said something like, look, you know, this is going to happen anyway. There's a lot of discontent out here. You might not understand it, you might not see it, but believe me, I've talked to people.
And he got a lot of flack because when you begin to talk about changing the power relationships in this society, when you begin to talk about who controls the flow and distribution of the money, who can make what kinds of decisions, I don't care what you do, you're going to get opposition. And if you're not able to deal with opposition, then you can't get engaged in work for social justice.
What we think of as Head Start was implemented under the auspices of the North Carolina Fund. And Lyndon Johnson was so impressed by it that he came down to North Carolina, spent a fair amount of time with Terry Sanford understanding what was this North Carolina Fund program, and then took it nationwide in what we know today as still one of the single most enduring programs to address poverty and education.
When I came down here, I was really, I guess, naive because it said war on poverty, and I actually thought the idea was to win the war. I mean, that the idea was to actually end poverty. For the people who are still with us today, you know, that would talk about that period, they would probably talk about how it changed their lives. The problem, of course, is that we did not change structural poverty.
We haven't yet solved this one great blight on the otherwise superb American system of free enterprise and freedom of the individual. We simply can't justify having so many people living at this lower level.